So good morning, everybody. My name is Philippa Haynes.
And I'm Mark Lee. Welcome to another edition of the Accountant's Success Secrets podcast.
Yes, this is where we showcase and celebrate successful accountants who are doing great things, have years of experience, and whose stories can inspire and encourage other accountants around the UK.
We like to talk to accountants who've been running their own practice successfully for a good few years, and we ask them to share their story, including the highs and the lows, and especially what they've learned along the way. Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. And if you would like to share your story in a similar way, do please get in touch with Philippa or myself. We're booked up for the rest of April when we're recording this. So our next interviewees we need to set up May and thereafter.
That's right. But today we're delighted to introduce Pavan Kirpalani of Bright Beans Accountancy.
Yep, Pavan was frustrated in his previous roles in banking and auditing and set up his business in 2019. The pandemic gave him an excuse for a slow start, but he's now very happy with where he is, focusing on service-based businesses, especially agency owners.
So welcome, Pavan, to the Accountant's Success Secrets. Is there anything you'd like to add as introduction before we start?
Thanks, Philippa. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. In terms of what I'd like to add, it's a difficult one because off late I've been in a lot of mentoring and coaching sessions, and the common feedback is that don't introduce yourself as an accountant. That's often a conversation stopper, apparently. Hope that's not the case today. But yeah,
you're in friendly hands here.
But great introduction. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so originally from banking, audit field, set out to start off my practice back in 2019. Chose perfect timing before COVID. So I had the first year to blame as a slow start. And here I am, 5 years now almost, and loving it, loving every minute.
That's brilliant. Well, Philippa and I always aim to dig deep into the person behind the accountant, and we seem to manage this with a few focused questions and still keep the podcast to around 30 minutes or more. So I'm going to start with a combination question. What was it that attracted you to move into practice and to start Bright Beans Accountancy?
So this was back when I was in audit in EY, and I had just qualified as an accountant. And in the Asian community, at least, the moment you tell your friends and family you're an accountant, you have a lot of offers for tea and cookies and pakoras and whatnot to come and give free advice. And after a lot of giving out a lot of free advice, and I thought, hang on, this is possibly chargeable work. I could set out and start doing this for a living. And so I left EY to set out a business on my own. But then a contract with JP Morgan came about, a very lucrative 6-figure contract. It was only meant to be 3 months. And I said, okay, it's a good start. It'll give me a buffer, accountant thinking, okay, cash in the bank and whatnot. But then 3 months became 2 years. And and November 19 was the time I said, okay, enough is enough. I've cashed in and I want to now really set out to do what I've set out to do. And then put in my papers and set out my business.
That's wonderful. And when you started, I appreciate, and you've been very honest in saying that the pandemic gave you an excuse for things not going to plan. Recognizing, I think implicitly in there that it's often the first year or so is often very challenging. And I think you said before we started recording that you took on anyone and everyone, as almost every accountant does do that. At what point did you feel that the practice was sustainable and that you'd be able to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think for me, it took a bit of time, a lot of time. I think it was just until a year ago where after a lot of, advice and guidance from peers in the industry, Pavan, you need to niche down, you need to choose a focus group, your ideal persona. You sometimes have to say no. And luckily, it just so happened I was just about, making ends meet. Yeah, it took a lot of time. So I don't have a riches to riches or rags to riches kind of story. So it's taken a while, and we're still sort of treading along. But yeah, enjoying every moment. And it was a year ago, I would say, okay, yeah, I need to niche down. I like these certain types of clients, and I want to work with them and them only. And then I also like these challenging type. It keeps me going. It keeps you stimulated, your mind. So I
So
kind of
tell
have
us,
like a mix now. Yeah. Sorry.
how did you choose that niche, and what is the niche, and
Yeah.
how, if you've been doing that for 12 months, how's it been going?
Yeah, so my niche is mainly agency business owners, so service-based businesses who are in the recruiting, digital marketing, advertising space. Mainly creatives, I would say. I think I have a visual thinking as well, and so do creatives. And I think I can bridge that gap, or a translator, if you like, of between your financial statements and the business. So I quite like speaking to these guys, and I enjoy a bit of marketing myself. I get to bounce off things with these guys. So it's not so much of a transactional relationship. It's very conversational, and sometimes it's transformational, because I'm trying to tell them, okay, this is what you need to do if you want to grow X amount a year. So I really enjoy these conversations. And like I was saying, I also like these challenging bits where, people with foreign income, and yeah, so ideal mix would be somebody who's of foreign origin, living in the UK, running an agency business, has some foreign income to declare. Yeah, that's like a perfect niche for me. But yeah, this is my sweet spot.
I love that. It's almost like having a sort of a bullseye target. And you've just described the absolute bullseye, but you'd be very happy with any agencies that aren't necessarily foreign owned, that sort of are around the bullseye or further around the dartboard, as long as they're somewhere on the dartboard.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
bread and butter. So we want to be specific, but not terribly
Not
specific.
exclusive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting to go for agency. I mean, my background is creative, I guess, or at least I've spent a lot of time with creatives, and typically they're not really very good at finances. They're not that interested, and so you've got to be a certain type of person to be able to communicate that, and to get them to listen, haven't you? What's your experience been of that?
Yeah. So I try and put myself in their shoes. So just as an example, we do now and again get clients who come in last minute, like literally a couple of days for the tax return to be completed. But even that, I use that as an opportunity. I say, listen, let's have a screen share. I'll talk you through line by line of your accounts, what you're signing off. Because end of the day, I think directors, business owners don't realize ultimately it's their responsibility. They're just signing off what is being produced. And uh, it's important for them to know what they're signing off. So things like going through line by line, explaining what it is as much as possible. So it's easy to explain fixed assets. Okay, these are all your computers, debtors. These are all the people who owe you at this point, creditors, and so on and so forth. The big ones I like to focus on are the director's loan account. I spend a bit more time on this because this is what traps business owners, and it's a difficult one because it's very misleading term for an actual nominal. And I try and talk to them about what the implications are of having an overdrawn director's loan account and things, and managing this. So that's where they really find the value. And yeah, so this is
Yeah.
essentially my process, what I use.
I love that, because I think you've got to have a certain amount of confidence in terms of communication and relationship building. And I think the accounting space would admit that, generally speaking, that isn't always their strong point. So for you to be able to do that, I think is really, really good and helpful for them.
I
So
totally agree. And if I could just add there, it's something that I don't hear often enough from accountants, that they're helping clients to understand key figures in their accounts. But it is something I hear complaints about from clients of accountants, people in the professional speaking world, for example, of consultants and trainers that I know who would love to understand what the hell they're signing off, but they have accountants who've never explained things to them, and they're not aware that there are accountants like you who would do that for them. And it's really quite bizarre, because ultimately you didn't train and qualify as an accountant. Very few trained and qualified as accountants in order to just fill in numbers on tax returns and accounts. But we've got the skills to explain things and help clients to understand things. And the pushback we often get is, well, clients don't want to pay for that.
Yes.
Well, they don't if they don't understand the value that they're going to get.
Yeah.
And you've obviously sort of stepped over that barrier now that so many have faced for a long time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pavan, go on, carry on.
Yeah, I was just saying it's just a part of, I think, for selfish reasons as well, because you're getting somebody to sign off, and then you don't want a later backbite to say, oh, you didn't tell me about this, or it's purely also to cover yourself and to make sure everyone's on the same page and they know what they're signing off. So yeah, absolutely, it's really important.
Great. So what have you learned along the way then? Because you talked about obstacles, and I'm sure that there have been a few over the last few years. What have the challenges been for you?
So starting off itself, obstacle was starting at a perfect time when it was COVID. All my projections went out of the window. I promised my wife a mansion, so we're still we're still working towards it, to put it that way. And it's going to happen at some point. So in terms of obstacles, it definitely was getting clients at a difficult time, to really differentiate yourself from other business or other accountants. You starting off at a time where everyone's looking at pure cost. I had to go in, from a price perspective, to secure clients, which in hindsight maybe not such a good idea, but you have to make ends meet, you have to pay the bills, and you learn a lot from doing a number of clients, helping out a number of clients. Other obstacles, definitely on the technical side. Like I said, I didn't train. Ideally, it would have been I trained or worked at an accounting practice. Had to learn it all myself. But thank God for the SEMA MIP community, MIP, which is the Member in Practice community. And these guys were around during COVID. We used to meet every Wednesday. And initially, my thought process was, there's something definitely for these guys. Like, why are they so helpful? And I was a bit reluctant to turn up. But no, these guys, like, I don't know if you know Mark, Lorraine, Ian Ross, Amarjeet, Farhan.
They're fabulous people. Yeah.
Sarah Taylor. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Lorraine's even been on this podcast.
Oh, she? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I may have seen. Yeah. So we have a WhatsApp group, all of us, and we try and meet up every Wednesday. And during COVID, it was funny because that was also the only socializing we had, right? So we grab a drink. We grab a drink, and by the time you start at 7 and it's sometimes 10, 11 o'clock.
Wow.
You can barely walk back to your room after all the drinks, but at least you're in your house, in your flat. So
just before we move on, Pavan, how did you actually develop your business during COVID? Because obviously there was no face-to-face, was there? And everybody went online. But I guess then you had to find somewhere to go, didn't you? Whether it was networking or how did you manage that?
Yeah, this was a puzzle for me because I was in limbo. I didn't know how, like you rightly said, couldn't get out. So I tried a bit of social media, talking to friends and family. Again, that was a plan. As part of my forecast was that, okay, I know 100 people from every employment. Even 1% of that would translate into sale. All of that was binned because none of that happened. For some reason, you think that you worked with so many people of such high caliber, and you tend to expect business at some point. But for me at that time, it was crickets, as quiet. And I had to just get out, try and speak to whoever I could speak to, and just say, you know what, I can help you out. And again, the whole point about taking anything and everything. I took on a lot of problem clients initially because problem clients want a solution, and I needed business, and I think it was a perfect match. So I could take on. It helped me learn, it helped me earn, and the clients had a solution as well. So it was a good mix.
Great.
Yeah.
So what are the mistakes then that you've made? And as it, I've made a few, as the song goes, but what do you look back at now and think, God, I shouldn't have done that?
And
What can our listeners learn?
And let's focus on those that are not pandemic related.
Yeah.
That there's some ongoing value in understanding the mistakes and what you learned from them.
Yeah, I think definitely. So I think every individual is a giver or a taker. That's the way I look at it. And I'm more of a giver, but sometimes you want to help somebody to a certain extent to just get them to get their feet in and try and understand things. But every now and again you'll get somebody who wants to take too much out of you, and for nothing. So I have people who I know who would want me to maybe screen share them complete a tax return, people very well known. So these are the kind of challenges. How do you balance relationship with business, and how do you give just enough to prove your expertise and to demonstrate you can help someone, is always a challenge, because you'll always have that one person to say, yeah, we want to do it in-house, but we just want free advice. And yeah, as much as you want to help, end of the day, we only have 10 hours a day that we work, so you want to make the most of it. So that for me is a challenge, and even still working towards it. Every now and again, a client would say, okay, I need to do my payroll registration or a VAT registration. How do I do it? I spend 5-10 minutes explaining, this is what you need to do. Bear in mind, these are the pitfalls, and if you want, we can do it for you, and it'll cost you X amount. And then you'll have another call or a quick WhatsApp message. Okay, I'm stuck in this, a screenshot. Can you help me? What do I need to write here? But actually, I spend more time explaining than I could have just done it myself for hardly any time where the business owner could have spent making money.
So have you learned how to deal with those situations to avoid making the same mistakes? What do you do differently?
Honestly, I'm still learning, and it's still, because everyone's different, right? So some people take offense to, they think, many clients would think that, oh, as an accountant, you should know everything. You should know about tax, payroll, international, foreign income, all of it. And you need to know everything about everything. But sometimes you need to rope in specialists, or you need to go back and research stuff, and things like that. So that's where that education is required. Clients need to know, that there's a lot of expertise that goes into it. And it's so easy to get these things wrong, because HMRC, the government, softwares don't help. They all communicate. You can do it yourself by a click of a button, and unfortunately, then it gets them in troubled waters. Again, it's opportunity for us, because that's when, for me, these are also very good clients, because then they come in with a mess of 2 years, and it's 2 years worth of fees. And also, I think these clients appreciate you more for what you're doing, especially who have had a difficult time.
You're absolutely right. I've often said that some of the best clients are those who've been trying to do it themselves and have been messing up, and they recognize that almost forces them to recognize the value that you can deliver. A couple of other thoughts there based on that challenge that you experienced, which is very common to a lot of accountants. I think that the answer often comes with time and experience and confidence and a willingness to, and it comes from the confidence of knowing that you can't know everything, and being able to explain that to clients as well. We have it in our heads that clients expect us to know everything because they ask us questions. I think that's a mistake on our part, include myself in this, as a trained chartered accountant, they don't expect us to know everything. They expect us to tell them when we don't know and that we're going to have to go elsewhere. But sometimes we're embarrassed to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the first thought. We have to overcome that embarrassment, because a good professional accountant knows what they don't know and admits that to clients and explains that the rules are complicated, things are changing, revenue have changed their position. I need to go away and check that. So that's the first tip, which I'm sharing to you. I'm sharing to our listener as well. And the other one is an expression that I used to use many, many years ago, which is when asked questions and another question and another one, is I would respond, do you know, that's getting perilously close to billable advice.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that.
That's getting perilously close to billable advice. I haven't used it for years, but I used it so often when I was in practice, and people were, what do we say, sometimes people are looking to either not push the envelope, but scope creep.
Yeah.
That's getting perilously close to additional billable work. I want to help as much as I can, but I've got a business to run, and it's one of the reasons I give business advice. I've got to show you that I run my business effectively too.
Yeah, absolutely, completely. I'm going to steal that. Perilous billable advice, if I can say it correctly. I have a good example on that note about educating clients and when to say no.
Go on.
This was when I first started out. The first year, one of my clients got this letter from HMRC. We know you have foreign income to declare, the worldwide disclosure. I knew nothing about it at that time, my first year of practice. And I said, listen, this seems like, there's something more to it. They, HMRC have information and you maybe need some specialist help here. And he's like, okay, I appreciate you for saying that, but what do I do? I said, you know what, I'm happy to scope out some accountants, some tax specialists who can help you with this advice. And let's go on Zoom calls with them, understand where they can help. And end to end, handheld them throughout the process, shared my thoughts. And it just so happened, because I saw this end to end from different accountants, I understood everything from the sales pitch, the pitfalls, what documents to look at, the compliance manuals, all of it. And at that point of time, I was like, it's, I'm not doing anything and I could be charging somebody, but then I'm learning.
Yeah.
So why not, and it was amazing. And that's, in fact, ever since then, I've done about 40 worldwide income disclosures that started it, so it's sometimes you just have to give it and say that you don't know, and things will come out.
Absolutely.
Totally. So, I mean, one of the questions we always ask our guests is, what singles you out? What makes you unique? And we've talked very much about your niche for a start. So that's one of them. What else would you say about kind of your secret sauce?
I think definitely speaking in simple English. I try not to use accounting terminology as much as I can. So anything like we were talking earlier, if it's fixed assets, I would give an example. So this is all your computers. You remember you bought that laptop 2 months ago. That's sitting in the fixed assets. So really having that, putting myself in the client's shoes and thinking what a non-accountant would look at it as. That's what I would say. It's not really a secret sauce. It's something very basic, but I think that works for me, and clients value it. And I get feedback to say, I get a lot of thank yous, and on that, a lot of thank yous. And my wife, sometimes she hears these conversations and she'll turn around and say, thank you doesn't pay the bills. charge them for this.
Yeah, you were talking about AI and how you use that earlier, before we went live, and you're using that as well to explain or something. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's such a blessing now, with communication, with research, with all of these wonderful things, marketing as well, because you always need that peer or somebody to bounce off ideas, and that's what AI does. It'll not give you the exact answer to everything, but it just gives you some guiding points. It's a little tool that you can use to really come up with some creativity, if you like. I don't like to mix creativity and accounting because that can sometimes be misleading, but but definitely in terms of explaining things, marketing material, I try and bounce it off AI to say, okay, how would you explain this to a 10-year-old? Again, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll come back with very basic stuff, and then you want to put in your own character, you want to put in your own personality, and again put yourself in a viewer's shoes and not just copy paste and you know.
And that is absolutely the learning here for me, and it's about AI generally, which is it can guide you, it can make things a bit quicker, but you can't just cut and paste. If you're using it properly, you're using it for your starting point or the foundation, but you have to put it in your voice and you have to add in your own kind of insights or explanation, otherwise it doesn't work. And it's really interesting that you've picked up on that and use it really well.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I often suggest that accountants think of whatever large language model, generative AI that they're using, ChatGPT being one of the most popular, Gemini from Google being another. But think of it as a bright 15-year-old, very keen to impress and to help you, but who may make things up in order to please you.
That's
You need
true.
to double check the
Yeah.
facts that it gives you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're also right in the prompts that you're giving it to ask it to explain things so that a younger person can understand it, because you know, we can then adapt that to adults. But it's a great starting point. Really like that.
Yeah, I do as well. And I mean that makes total sense that you're working with marketing and creative agencies, because as you've said yourself, you have that sort of brain. It kind of feels like when I'm listening to you, you're a good communicator, you're good with relationships, you're confident at sort of being face to face, and you're confident with using tools but making them your own. And I think that's absolutely a massive learning for everybody.
Yeah. I totally agree from what I've heard as well, Pavan. We're going to ask about the other secrets to your success. And I think, again, you mentioned earlier that your wife is part of that.
Oh, definitely. I think, yeah, from the start, ever since I've decided to set out on my own, there was a lot of thought process in my mind. Is that how is it going to be accepted? Because obviously income levels will change. I was on a 6-figure package. It was perfect. And yeah, for me to go to less than 10K in the first year of business. Of course, she didn't know that I was going to make only 10K. But I promised her the mansion, but yeah, I think she's been a pillar for me. I can't choose a better word. I know it sounds cliche for me, for anyone, and she's a better accountant, I would say, as well. She's much more commercially minded, even though again not trained and not been in practice. Much better value for money and appreciating. Sometimes I bounce off things with her with regard to clients, and then she'll just give me something completely random and out of the blue, or it could be even like marketing related or something somebody said, and we tend to overthink it. We're our worst critics ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have somebody who's there beside you, push you every now and again. Sometimes you'll fall, but it's part of the business, I think. So definitely, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, I mean, we're doing really well timing wise. We've come to the end pretty much, and it was really great to get to know you a little bit better, Pavan.
Quite.
So how can, for those people who have listened or who will be going to listen later on, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to find
Yeah.
you?
So online, I'm trying to be as grow my profile on LinkedIn. Find it a very professional platform. You don't get the odd heckles which you get on TikTok. Funny saying that I got my first client from TikTok recently, which was a surprise. And
Wow.
but yeah, definitely LinkedIn is one which I'm trying to build my profile, and I think that's the easiest way. If not, there's always my website, brightbeans.co.uk.
Lovely.
Great.
Thank you for that. And Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you and Insight 101?
Well, LinkedIn as always, but my website will also lead you to booking a discovery call. So that's insight101.co.uk. And Mark, tell us how we can find you.
Again, LinkedIn, Bookmarkly or Markly FCA, my website, bookmarkly.co.uk.
Your new website.
New website now, live, online everywhere. I'm Bookmarkly, so even my business card is in the shape of a bookmark as well. And I've got loads of them, so if you meet me anywhere and you want a bookmark, I should always have loads with me now.
Great. Well, that's it. So if you've enjoyed this episode of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast, please share the love online. Leave a review on Apple or Spotify, and let us have your feedback via LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And do reach out to either Philippa or myself if you'd like to be interviewed on a future podcast. Thanks again to Pavan and Philippa. And until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast or anywhere else that we might meet online or in real life. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.